My story begins a bit before discovering Bitcoin, and due to health problems, I was taken to a hospital with my father for physiotherapy. This is happening in Romania. And back then, I found out that this physiotherapy hospital was about to be shut down because of some shady dealings behind the scenes. And the owner of the actual property where this physiotherapy hospital was the church. And like for me, that was such an outrage that I felt like I have to do something, because one of the nurses said that this is going to be shut down soon. And I was very frustrated back then, and what can I do? Go outside with signs? No, that's not going to work. And after some time, I think after 2 days, I got to the conclusion that my best chance at doing something about this is not actually doing it myself, but spreading the information that this is taking place, because this was done because people were not aware of what is going on. So then I wrote this email where I was basically describing my situation, that I was at this hospital and this is going on and this is a good place in that city. And I sent this to all the local news stations that I found, all the local blog posts that are there, local TV stations, radio stations, you name it. And then the media started going there and asking questions. Hey, are you closing this hospital? Why are you? What's the plan? Why the patients that are going to be needed? So in time, like in about 2 weeks or so, a local politician stood up and said, like, this is a good thing we have here, capitalizing on the public uproar. And basically he was the good guy there, shut up and take my vote. But the end result was that this hospital continued to remain open for another few years until a replacement hospital was built and operational, which is the normal way to do it, not just shut down and if someone needs it, goes to a different city. So to me, that really made me believe that change is real and it happens. It's not only in Hollywood movies, and that sometimes even if you feel small, you can make a big impact. So to me, in some ways, that's still one of the proud moments in my life, beyond Ethereum or getting into this space. And by witnessing the power of just spreading the information out there and people being aware of it, I think to some way also explains why I was so drawn to start Bitcoin Magazine together with Vitalik after I discovered Bitcoin in 2011. So in 2011, around mid-2011, it was super hard to kind of get a coherent, when I first saw it, I was like, God damn, this is I called also Roxanne, it's like, wow, check out this. It's like we use coins, the video is like, oh, what is Bitcoin? The first decentralized digital currency. So it sounded too good to be true. So I was trying to just figure out, is this for real or just another scam on the internet, random internet scam? And it took me a bit longer than expected to actually, oh man, this is for real. I started reading the white paper, going Bitcoin Talk was like the main forum and source of information back then. And I saw the need for this coherent source of information for people to find out about Bitcoin and this thing that can really change the world, so to say. It sounds corny, but really it does change it, and it did change it looking back. And while I was trying to form this opinion about what's up with this, some of the articles, some of the best articles that I found on this topic were written by Vitalik Buterin. And it's like, God damn, this guy knows what he's talking about. I really liked the way he wrote, and I got in touch with him a bit later on if he would be interested in doing something like Bitcoin Magazine together, and the rest is history. He was very open, and then that started. And to us, it really gave us a front row seat, so to say, at witnessing this explosion of various businesses that many of them are no longer around. But it did also, I think, allow us to see a bit yes, it's super big as an innovation, but it also has its limitations, like everything. And until 2013, with Vitalik, we also started working on this project called Agora, an electronic Agora, where the idea was kind of creating this WordPress type thing, but for building your own marketplace. And it was interesting because we were using a Bitcoin multisig and trying to do a bunch of things back then. But then we got also to the point okay, we have this platform using crypto. But what differentiates us from eBay or something else? It's going to be a company there. Is that like, is it decentralized if it's going to be us? So, talking, and there are some articles on DAOs. DAOs are not scary, written by Vitalik for Bitcoin magazine. Those were also part of the conversation, then trying to imagine how a new type of company doing this would look like. And we met in person after 2 years of already working together on the internet. This was in 2013. And later on, so I think it was October, November 2013, I received from him like the first draft of what did not have the name back then, but of the Ethereum white paper. And when I read Ethereum and the white paper and the ideas there, for me it was like this, the same feeling that I had when I was reading the Bitcoin white paper and convincing myself like, God damn, this is real. It's not some bullshit from the internet. I saw like it was something big. And I immediately said, like, oh, how can I help and so on. And in this project, as one of the earliest co-founders that Vitalik, like, yeah, let's do this. I had the task, so to say, of spearheading the finding of the right jurisdiction, so people do not get in trouble for just contributing code. And people were actually, am I going to get in trouble? Because we are looking, still now it's not that great either, but back then it was a rather more dark than the gray we have today. Like blockchains and cryptocurrency is not only about like the dark markets and like what about the children? Now you have like banks doing all sorts of stuff and CBDCs and all of this stuff that back then were not even imaginable to some of the banks and companies that are doing this stuff today. And after this, I went together with Lorenzo, Roxana, and a few others in Switzerland. And it was a total shot in the dark. We were like, can Switzerland work for this project? And we were looking at a number of jurisdictions. We were looking at Netherlands, Germany, UK. US kind of seemed like a bad idea since then, so dodged the bullet there. Canada was another one. I think Singapore was also another one. So anyway, we looked at a bunch of jurisdictions, and I said like, okay, I'll go see if Switzerland is a good place to do it. And we were proactive there, tried to outreach also to the local authorities, and look, we are trying to do this. This is going to be like a platform. This is going to be like this. And they were actually receptive to the idea, and they saw the opportunity in this. And like the idea that was presented and like how I try to convey this, I said like, imagine like this being like a crypto valley. And that's when the meme, I coined that and that spread. I sometimes go in a coffee shop and so on, and I hear crypto valley said by some random at another table without, and it was like, it spread, it took off, and then Ethereum found its home, we did that stuff there. And since Ethereum was like in its earliest alpha version and like alpha testnets and all of that stuff super early, my mind was already racing like, wow man, think about like DAOs and what smart contracts, what the cool things like social networking and like how you can do all sorts of stuff. But for the developers that were still kind of trying to get the early testnet, it was like, it remind me 1 year later, so it was maybe frustrating for them, but it was also frustrating for me because we were not able to do this for another year. What do you mean? So anyway, like in 2015, after the Ethereum blockchain was successfully launched and we had the Genesis, that's when I, considered in a way my duty as an Ethereum co-founder fulfilled. The project was now live, and to a certain extent, for me, like I think this was one of the most critical periods in the Ethereum history, because the Ethereum chain was not up and running. And if there would have been something bad to, I don't know, someone like personal, Vitalik, or the regulators would come and say, whoa, what are you doing here? Like Libra tried to do with Diem or whatever. They tried to rebrand, or Novi, I don't know, they had like 3 names or something. So we managed to get it out. So it's like the paste is out of the tube, so it's like hard to put it back. And for me, like the social networking apps and AKASHA as a project was something that I really thought that, we have now these new technologies at our fingertips, and we still have like these old problems, old as world, so to say. And in the beginning, this problem of like freedom of expression and censorship online was, what are the biggest problems that we can now maybe solve or try to solve with these new technologies? And this was the one that okay, let's give it a try. And since 2015 and officially announced on 2016 May 3rd, WordPress Freedom Day, we find ourselves continuing working on this vision, and today was super cool to talk about what we are about to release now as a framework for people to build their own social platforms for their communities, customized to their needs. And yeah, for me, it was an incredible journey, but I will say that even if we talked a lot about technology, I think maybe the thing that I treasure the most from this journey are the people that I've met along the way. And there are, before stumbling into Ethereum, and like with Bitcoin magazine and so on, sometimes I had the feeling that I'm alone, like here goes that guy talking about Bitcoin or something, rolling eyes, it's like you need also to find your people with which you can talk about the things that you're passionate about. And within the Ethereum community and like the way the meetups were organized and like even this event, this spirit of knowledge sharing and I don't know, this friendliness that you feel it's there, I was just looking at, it's magic, it's hard to put in words. So what are the main challenges when it comes to decentralized social networks, and why do I find it relevant, and what draws me into it? So back in 2015, 2016, like social media in general was maybe not as turbulent as it is today. So I think looking at this problem with the knowledge of what today holds, I think it's even more relevant. And sometimes, when you start a project, it's years. And especially in this space, it's so easy to get lost because there are so many shiny things that you can go after. But in our case with AKASHA, it was complex, but in essence, it was a simple idea about this communication, and like borderless communication without the gatekeepers that decide what can be communicated and what not. Continued to grow year by year in terms of like relevance, seeing how the social media landscape changes to today, where you have this situation with I'm not sure if it's the richest man, but at the time of the purchase of Twitter, you had the richest person of the world having this platform bought. Like people are wondering, is this good or is this bad? So like months after this takeover, it's clearly a bad thing. I mean, in my opinion, it might be subjective. But ultimately, it highlights how bad of a position we find ourselves when we are, as a civilization, as a society, in the position where our freedom of expression and collective memory as a society, as an information-based society, is outsourced in the hands of a few corporations. And especially when these corporations are basically at the feet of one person. You have like this, I don't know, Elon Musk as one example, but you also have Mark Zuckerberg, which is still the majority shareholder for Facebook or Meta. What is Facebook? It's Facebook. It's Instagram. It's WhatsApp. It's so many things. The Kraken has many, many legs. So I think to some extent for me, social networking, and also drawing a parallel with the initial story with seeing that having people aware or making people aware of some of the problems that are important to them leads to change because they take action. Like in that case, people were getting uproar. You saw comments, you saw people starting to ask questions. Things happen or things change when people care enough about them. If they don't know about them, they don't care because they don't know. So I think today we find ourselves in a similar situation with the state of social media and more people caring about these things because they, maybe they worked in some way years to build that follower base on Twitter, and now they just find themselves with their account deleted after 30 days because they did not sign up because Elon changed that without even saying anything to anyone 2 days ago. So I think this type of rug pulling almost under your feet when you consider the place where you talk with your people and your community as a public space, and you find yourself that wasn't actually a public space shared thing, it's a very bad situation. And to me, I think humans in general are social creatures, right? I mean, we are smart as individuals, but I think our strength comes when we come together. And when you have powers and people that can't stand in the way of you getting together for whatever reason, and I'm just going to make a mention here that even Facebook and Twitter were used to organize protests, revolutions, take down regimes, initiate change. The same tool that was initially saw and heralded as, yes, the power of the internet, the original, the home of mind and the weary giants of steel are not welcome here. What happened after? Give me the list of all the people that went at the protest, all the people that posted something against me. And the tool that was initially envisioned as the tool that brings freedom and empowerment to people was turned against them, and they got into trouble, So I think that's not a good position to be in. And I hope we, with AKASHA, and I will say that all the projects in this space and blockchains and should focus on this bigger idea that it's not a competition among us. It's in a way a competition with the establishment and centralized powers that are continuing to do the same things that they've done for thousands of years. And I hope now with this convergence of technologies, from like governance and imagining new ways in which you can organize resources, distribute, vote on them, and all of this stuff will allow us. It's almost like we don't realize, but it's almost like we are building these puzzle pieces that allows us to, come up with new ways of organizing and new societies. So beyond just like, sharing that photo or that meme and so on, I think the hidden part of the iceberg will be even more impactful, because we now find ourselves in a situation where transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, where in Web 2 it was this interactive stuff and you were able to move information and interactions at the speed of light. Now we have also the ability to move resources at the speed of light and organize collective actions in ways that are empowering communities to take a stand when it comes to like the important stuff, not just the meme. It can be an important meme also, but for me that's what I think motivates to continue to do this, and I find it like increasing in importance, especially in the last few years.